It's Wednesday, June 5th. I'm Priyanka Arabindi.
And I'm Juanita Tolliver, and this is What a Day, the show where we have some questions about the $40,000 in government reimbursements Representative Matt Gaetz asked for last year.
Yeah, very strategically used the program passed last year that doesn't require any receipts. Do you know what this company would be paying for if I could expense things with no receipts? Matt Gaetz is bad, but I could spend more. It's fine. On today's show, Wisconsin is the latest state to bring charges against Trump allies for trying to overturn the 2020 election. Plus, Ukraine launches strikes into Russia using American-made weapons.
But first, as we previewed for you yesterday, President Biden issued an executive order on Tuesday to close the border when migrant crossings exceed a 7-day average of 2,500 crossings per day. Under the order, the border will remain closed until the average number of crossings drops to 1,500 per day. Take a listen to Biden as he unveiled the plan at a press conference.
To protect America as a land that welcomes immigrants, we must first secure the border and secure it now. The simple truth is, there is a worldwide migrant crisis. And if the United States doesn't secure our border, there's no limit to the number of people who may try to come here.
But Biden also seemed to acknowledge that there are a lot of people in his party who aren't happy with his actions.
For those who say the steps I've taken are too strict, I say to you that be patient. And goodwill of American people are wearing thin right now. Doing nothing is not an option. We have to act. We must act consistent with both our law and our values as Americans. I'll take these steps today, not to walk away from who we are as Americans, to make sure we preserve who we are for future generations to come.
The new border policy went into effect at 12:01 a.m. Eastern today, and it will still allow unaccompanied minors, sex trafficking victims, and asylum seekers who scheduled appointments via the Customs and Border Protections app to cross the border.
Okay, so based on the immediate responses to the president's announcement, some Democrats appear to be just as upset as Republicans. So can you tell us why that is?
Well, Biden was surrounded by fellow Democrats during the announcement, like New York Governor Kathy Hochul, New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, the mayor of San Antonio, Ron Nirenberg, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, and Texas Representatives Mark Vasey and Vicente Gonzalez, among others. But there has been an outpouring of frustration from Democrats who consider President Biden's executive order to be nearly identical to the asylum ban former President Donald Trump attempted to implement in 2018. The primary criticisms from Democrats are that closing the border is not a viable long-term solution, and it inhumanely upends the entire asylum-seeking process at a moment when border crossings have declined. Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, one of the lead negotiators on the bipartisan border bill that failed, has pushed Democrats to leverage offensive messaging related to Republicans' inaction and sabotage on immigration. He described the limitations of President Biden's executive powers on the border during an appearance on ABC's Face the Nation last weekend. Take a listen.
The president has such limited ability to issue executive orders that would have an impact on the border. He can't conjure resources out of thin air. If he were to try to shut down portions of the border, the courts would throw that out, I think, within a matter of weeks.
To dig into this issue further, I spoke with Senator Alex Padilla of California about President Biden's executive order and the impact it will have on asylum seekers and the 2024 election. I started by asking Senator Padilla about the human toll of a policy like this.
Look, obviously, beyond disappointed for a number of reasons. We can talk about the fact that it's not going to work. We can talk about the fact that it's a retread of failed Trump policies in many ways. But to your point about the human cost of this, the ability for people fleeing violence, fleeing for their lives, fleeing authoritarian governments, fleeing, significant danger to come to the United States to seek asylum, right? It's not automatically granted. There's a process. But to seek asylum, that is allowable by both our federal law and international law. It's part of the international obligations that we've made as the United States of America. And to think that we either make it harder for somebody to qualify for asylum or to put in place an arbitrary cap, whether it's 2,500, whether it's 1,500, if you were the one person in line behind the person who hit that cap and to say no matter how legitimate your claim is, no matter how dangerous it would be for you to return to your home country and your community, you're just out of luck. It is unconscionable to me that that is becoming the policy of the United States.
And you told reporters Monday that President Biden's executive order, quote, should not be the starting point for the next round of negotiations, and this should definitely not be the new Democratic position. So what should be the starting point and the party's position?
There is near universal agreement. There is a need to modernize our nation's immigration system. It hasn't been done in more than 30 years, despite off and on attempts for many, many years now. Do I agree? Do Democrats agree that we need a secure, orderly, and humane border? Absolutely. So how do we do that? Part of what the Democrats have been trying to do through Congress is to provide more capacity for that asylum system, not just more Border Patrol agents and ICE officers, but imagine this, hearing officers, immigration judges, right? The very infrastructure for hearing these asylum claims. There's a number of reasons why people may be coming, and so we need to address that. We have a lot of allies and partners in not just Mexico, but Central and South America. We need to be working with them. So I won't call it a fun fact, I'm just going to call it a fact. The numbers of people coming to the southern border seeking asylum in the last couple of months has come down significantly. The numbers have been in a downward direction without any new law being passed, without any executive order being signed. Why? Because months and months ago, officials in the Biden administration worked with representatives of the Mexican government on a more thoughtful way to manage the migration flow. So it's working. And we need to build on that, not just with Mexico, who just had elections and are going to be in a transition soon, but with other countries, again, throughout Central and South America. That's the way to more thoughtfully and effectively address the issue.
Okay, Senator Padilla, you just said the numbers are down. So now that raises questions about the timing and the political risks that come along with this executive order. So what does Biden risk politically with this announcement?
Well, I think that's to be determined. If there's nothing else that happens, what Biden risks is letting folks factually say, well, he's just trying the Trump stuff all over again, and we saw that it didn't work. So what I'm hoping for, and I've been pushing him and the White House for, is, so what are the other pieces to this? Either A, again, engaging with other leaders throughout the hemisphere, or B, recognizing that border security in and of itself is not a comprehensive immigration policy, right? Because what's been lost in this conversation, what breaks my heart the most, is not a single dreamer is being helped in all of this. Not a single farm worker is going to enjoy any protections here, because the vast majority of farm workers in the United States are undocumented. We're talking about the millions of people who aren't coming to the United States right now, but have been here for years, in some cases decades, contributing to the success of communities, contributing to the success of our economy. It doesn't make sense, and it's absolutely wrong. We're better than this as a country.
Now, I know you are one of the Democrats who is explicitly opposed to this executive order, but Biden was surrounded by Democratic members of Congress and Democratic mayors from border cities when he made his executive order announcement on Tuesday. We've also seen mayors of deep blue cities like New York, Chicago, and Denver say that they're overwhelmed by the number of migrants arriving and have repeatedly asked the administration to step up, to do more, to help them. So we also know that voters across the political spectrum are consistently saying that immigration is a top-tier issue for them going into 2024. So with that in mind, how should Biden follow up this executive action that deepens an existing divide among Democrats ahead of the 2024 election? And considering that with the fact that he still has to shore up key blocks of the Democratic voter base, like young people, like voters of color, like Latino voters too.
Yeah, let me be clear. Not me, not any of my Democratic colleagues that have come out in opposition to the Senate bill months ago or to the executive order. We're not in the do-nothing camp. We all know we need to do something. We just hope that the something is more thoughtful, more effective, and more sustainable than this. I mean, what's shocking to me is the Senate bill, now this executive order, is the first time that I can recall that as Democrats, we're willing to do, punitive elements, which we know don't work, and absolutely achieved no relief, no protections for long-term residents of the United States who happen to be undocumented.
And that begs the question, who is this executive order for? Because you've named who it's not for. You named what it doesn't do long-term or sustainably. So who is this for?
One thing I will agree with the president on from this executive order as he was presenting it, he's trying to do something. I have my differences with it because Republicans in Congress fail to act. When they will go through a charade of a negotiation to achieve a bipartisan agreement and then run away from it at the snap of Trump's fingers, that's malpractice in the policy-making space. And so we need to hold them to account as well. It's not just what we like about the executive order, what was missing in the executive order. Let's remember why we're here to begin with, because Republicans for years and years and years, and this cycle is no different, would rather keep a quote-unquote crisis at the border in play for political gain at the ballot box in November instead of actually trying to solve the issues.
Now, we know the ACLU has said that it has full intentions of challenging this executive order in court. Do you think the order is going to hold up?
I have my doubts. I mean, it's far too similar to what was attempted during the Trump administration that was not allowed by the court. So it's a little different, but I think here we go again. And we're going to have to keep putting the pressure on trying to get a more thoughtful, truly effective and sustainable solution going. I do believe that's what Democrats want and need and will continue to pursue.
That was my conversation with Senator Alex Padilla of California, and we will continue to follow this issue as the legal challenges are likely to follow in the coming days and weeks.
That is the latest for now. We'll get to some headlines in just a moment, but if you are enjoying our show, please make sure to subscribe and share it with your friends. We'll be right back after some ads.
We need to talk. The acclaimed Showtime original docuseries Couples Therapy returns with an addictive and revealing new season. Dr. Orna is back in session, helping 4 new couples grapple with real issues from religion and sex to polyamorous power dynamics. Collider says couples therapy is like nothing else on TV. It's break up or breakthrough on the new season of Couples Therapy. Now streaming with the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan. Visit ParamountPlus.com to try it free.
The Cheerwine Uniquely Southern Summer Contest is back. It's your chance to win tons of great weekly prizes all summer long and a grand prize mountain vacation at the truly unique Bear Lake Reserve. 3 ways to enter. Buy Cheerwine and upload the receipt to cheerwine.com or post a pic on social media using hashtag CheerWineSummer or look for bonus codes. This week, enter for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the best pro baseball, hockey, and basketball teams in the South and a case of Cheerwine. Rules at cheerwine.com.
You can live out your MasterChef dreams when you find a professional on Angie to tackle your dream kitchen remodel. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Visit Angie.com. You can do this when you Angie that.
Let's wrap up with some headlines.
Headlines.
Ukrainian forces struck a Russian military facility using American-made military weapons, according to the New York Times. A Ukrainian official told the Times that the attack hit a region 20 miles inside of Russia, destroying multiple Russian launchers. The U.S. initially barred the use of its weapons to strike inside of Russia, a restriction that was heavily criticized by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. But according to White House officials, the ban was partially lifted last week to allow the Ukrainian military to defend Kharkiv, the northeastern region of Ukraine. But Ukraine is still barred from using American munitions and long-range weapons for offensive strikes.
3 Trump associates have been charged with forgery in Wisconsin for their connection in trying to overturn the 2020 election. The Wisconsin Attorney General alleges that attorneys Kenneth Chesbrough and James Trupis, along with Trump's head of Election Day operations, Michael Roman, helped submit falsified paperwork claiming that Trump won the state in 2020. They each face 1 count of felony forgery. If they're found guilty, they could be fined $10,000 and serve up to 6 years in prison. We've seen similar election interference cases playing out in Nevada, Michigan, Georgia, and Arizona, so the list is just getting longer now, Priyanka.
Make them all felons. Why not? Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi claimed victory on Tuesday evening in the country's election, beginning what will be his third term as India's prime minister. It was the largest democratic exercise in history, with 640 million votes cast. I read somewhere that it took 6+ weeks for this election to take place. But this term looks different from his past decade in office. Modi's party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP, lost dozens of seats needed to secure a single-party majority in parliament. It's the first time since the BJP rose to power in 2014 that Indian politics will see more of a coalition government, with smaller parties getting a say. The BJP's loss in seats could also make it more difficult for Modi to carry out a lot of his Hindu nationalist agenda, which includes many anti-Muslim policies.
Ippei Mizuhara, the former interpreter for LA Dodgers star player Shohei Ohtani, has changed his story. On Tuesday, he pled guilty to federal bank and tax fraud charges, changing his original not guilty plea from May. Earlier this year, an investigation found that Mizuhara stole nearly $17 million from Ohtani to pay off his gambling debts. Investigators found that Mizuhara had direct access to Ohtani's bank account and that he would impersonate Ohtani on the phone to authorize large withdrawals. Oh my gosh, the betrayal of it all. I just
crazy.
Wrapping my head around like the identity theft paired with just
truly crazy
abusing his access to Ohtani.
That's your best friend. That's so crazy.
Ohtani, the highest paid player in Major League Baseball, released a statement on Tuesday saying, quote, "This full admission of guilt has brought important closure to me and my family." According to the Justice Department, Mizuhara will be sentenced in late October, and he could face up to 33 years in prison. Yikes. This is just a horrible saga, and I gotta come back to the idea of what life is like when you make so much money, you don't even look at your accounts. I don't know what $700 million feels like. I don't know what that contract
I would never look at my
like.
account, so I understand why he had no idea that this was happening right under his nose. I would not. Please. Few things will have me feeling like much sympathy for someone who has that much money. I mean, like, how bad could their life be? But like being betrayed,
your best friend,
in such a big way by someone who is so close to you. Oh my God, that's going to be a long time until, I don't know. How do you really recover from that?
Yeah.
And those are the headlines.
One more thing before we go. Comedian Jerry Goldstein is stepping in as guest host of this week's Love It or Leave It with guest Miss Pat. If you're a friend of the pod or considering joining our community, you can catch Jerry's upcoming round of Ask Me Anything exclusively on Friends of the Pod Discord this Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Head on over to crooked.com/friends to join now.
That is all for today. If you like the show, make sure you subscribe, leave a review. Don't steal $17 million from your friends, but do tell your friends to listen.
And if you're into reading and not just the ever-growing list of charges faced by Trump's cronies like me, What a Day is also a nightly newsletter. Check it out and subscribe at crooked.com/subscribe. I'm Juanita Tolliver.
I'm Priyanka Arabindi. And tell your reps to submit their receipts. If we gotta do it, they gotta do it.
Right. If regular people have to do anything, the people who represent regular people should have to do it too.
That's also all our money. Like, where do you think they're getting that money? It's from us.
Right. I want to know where it's going.
What a Day is a production of Crooked Media. It's recorded and mixed by Bill Lance. Our associate producers are Raven Yamamoto and Natalie Bettendorf. We had production help today from Michelle Alloy, Greg Walters, and Julia Clare. Our showrunner is Erica Morrison, and our executive producer is Adrian Hill. Our theme music is by Colin Gilliard and Kashaka.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing.
But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. With the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers. In fact, Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/podcastfree. All lowercase, shopify.com/podcastfree, shopify.com/podcastfree.